Chinese military equipment began reaching Pakistan in the 60s. When other major suppliers refused to rearm Pakistan, it was China that stepped into the breach. These aircraft at Pakistan Air Headquarters on the northwest frontier are Chinese MiG-19s. The largest single component in the Pakistan Air Force. 20 years ago, it was Gary Powers who took off from Peshawar Air Base on his ill-fated U-2 mission over the Soviet Union. But the Americans have long gone. General Zia provides a candid assessment of China's military assistance to Pakistan.
China has been giving us a good deal of military hardware. They will continue to do so, but China has limitations. And with Chinese limitations, not only in the field, not only in the quantitative field, but also in the technological field. And we realize those difficulties and weaknesses. In addition, China has a much greater role to play in the world now. So we cannot expect China's total attention on Pakistan, but I have no doubt in my mind that China will do their best to assist Pakistan.
Despite the need to equip her own armed forces, China has made big sacrifices to keep Pakistan supplied. Since the end of the Vietnam War, Pakistan has become the largest recipient of Chinese military hardware, all of it handed over on remarkably generous terms, proof of Pakistan's vital importance in the eyes of the Peking leadership. These tanks belong to a Pakistan armoured regiment on close support manoeuvres in the northwest frontier. And they're Chinese as well. Since 1965, the Chinese have handed over 700 of these T-59 tanks. They make up no less than 2/3 of Pakistan's tank force. Much more important than military hardware, though, is the latest phase in the Chinese military assistance program to Pakistan. This vast factory complex has just been opened to recondition T-59s, new tanks for old. Our request to film inside the plant was turned down by the Pakistanis. Chinese technicians on military missions abroad are notoriously camera shy. But a similar huge complex is known to be under construction for the reconditioning of MiG fighters. And we understand that the Soviet takeover of Afghanistan has had the direct result of speeding up this part of the Chinese military program in Pakistan. On the high seas, the Pakistan Navy's flagship was once HMS Diadem, which took part in the D-Day bombardment of Normandy. Among other aging British warships, this destroyer missed service in the Second World War only by a few months. Certainly not the sort of ships capable of competing in the naval race now underway between the United States and the Soviet Union. A few years ago, there was a move to declare the Indian Ocean a zone of peace. But now, with the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, Russian troops are within just 300 miles of this Baluchistan coast. So far from becoming a zone of peace, there is every prospect that the Indian Ocean will become an area of superpower naval rivalry, if not of open conflict. China herself is only a very modest naval power, but here again she has come to the rescue of her friends in Pakistan. Almost the only new equipment the Pakistan Navy has received in recent years has come from China. Anti-submarine craft and 12 of these sleek Shanghai-class gunboats. But it's not just in military hardware that the Chinese have established their special relationship with Pakistan. In the remote north of the country, high in the Karakoram Mountains, we filmed the most intriguing link between these two countries. And the greatest symbol of China's commitment to the region is the Karakoram Highway, linking China's Xinjiang province at 16,000 feet, 500 miles down through the Indus Gorge to the plains. It took Chinese and Pakistan army engineers 20 years of hard labour to convert Marco Polo's Silk Route, a mule track through the mountains, into this, the Friendship Highway. The first cut of the road was carried out by Pakistan army engineers. But then for 10 years, Chinese labour battalions struggled to upgrade the road into the world's most remarkable mountain highway. In all, more than 10,000 Chinese linked up with Pakistanis to construct the road. They used 8,000 tons of explosives to blast their way through the rock, and landslides continue to block the highway. The precise financial cost of the operation has never been computed, but we do know the human cost, and that was staggering enough. For each mile of the road, a man died. The Pakistanis lost more than 300 men, crushed in rock slides, swept from cliff faces, or buried by avalanches. This Chinese cemetery contains 70 graves. In all, 160 Chinese died, 40 of them in one terrible disaster. Glory to those comrades who died in the construction of the highway, says their memorial. The Karakoram Highway replaces a road, the old Silk Route, that was at best jeepable and far better suited to pack animals or even more rudimentary forms of human transport. The poorness of the old road kept the modern world out of Pakistan's remote northern valleys. What bridges there were only constructed to gain access to the area's few towns. Even the latest suspension bridge, built by the Pakistan Army just a year ago, can only carry light traffic. Now the Karakoram Highway has brought schools and dispensaries to Shangri-La. Valleys with fairy tale fortresses are even boasting their first policeman. But even that hardly justifies a highway to China. Another reason for the road could be cross-border trade between Xinjiang in China and the northern regions of Pakistan. 2 or 3 caravans a year with 40 trucks apiece grind over the Kunjarab Pass at 16,500 feet, exchanging dried fruit for shovels, Pakistani cigarettes for Chinese crockery, razor blades and nylon cloth for hose and kitchenware. And Marco Polo's Silk Route lives up to its name once again. Heavy Chinese silks at £3 a yard. But barter trade and development alone are scant justification for such a road. What really lies behind this highway is military strategy. There are 80 large-span bridges on the highway, each capable of carrying tanks. Tanks that could one day be speeding to Pakistan's assistance. Even in the immediate reaction to the Soviet takeover of Afghanistan, the road could play its part.
In terms of Afghanistan, I would expect that the Chinese would want to try to get some arms, if possible, small arms, rifles, ammunition, to the Afghan fighters in the hills to keep the Soviet Union deeply engaged and to keep them from consolidating their control.
If they were to do that, how would those arms get to the Afghan guerrillas?
Well, no one is going to be talking about this, but I'm sure that what the Chinese will try to do is to bring them in through Pakistan. There are a large number of Afghan rebels in Pakistan who go back and forth over a long and porous border. The easiest way for Chinese arms to get there is down the highway that comes in over Karakoram, and then through these methods across the border from Pakistan into Afghanistan.
Couldn't that be a pretty dangerous game both for the Chinese and the Pakistanis to play as far as Soviet reaction?
Well, it's a very dangerous game, and that's why, of course, this is all going to be done covertly and sub rosa. Nobody's going to openly say that they're supplying them.
It's a direct link between China and Pakistan, and it has been built on the blood of both Chinese and Pakistani engineers, so it couldn't have been for anything else but for very important assignments.
Do you feel that in the event of a big power conflict in this area, Pakistan might require direct Chinese assistance?
No, I don't think so. Unless it's a Third World War, and for which the major powers have their own strategy, and Pakistan may co-opt itself to be a participant. In that case, of course, for allies, every inch of her land would be as available to them as it is available for us.
So short of a Third World War, You're saying the Karakoram Highway has no strategic significance?
It has the potentiality and it has the capability. It's a question of when it is to be used.